Speaking of health, what scientists are discovering about who is really listening. So today we're going to travel through something a little different. We're going to start with a mystery, and then we're going to talk about an ancient survival system, an invisible world, a new way of seeing, and a simple path forward. So let's get started. We're going to talk about a mystery that many pet owners have experienced. So maybe you've had one of those days, right? Your inbox exploded, traffic was awful, meeting didn't go well, you finally got home, dragged yourself in the door. But before you said a single word, your dog is already acting differently. Or maybe your cat has disappeared under a bench. So how do they know? It wasn't because you told them. It wasn't because they read your email or hacked into your Google Calendar. Something else is going on. So yes, it's absolutely true that our pets are sensitive to their owner's emotions, and that can lead to behavioral issues. I don't know if you've ever had this happen, but it definitely has an impact. 95. All right. So that is actually the answer. 95% in the survey that they've done, people view their pets as an actual member of the family. And that's because domesticated animals are really entirely dependent on us for survival. You know, they rely on us for food, shelter, safety, love. And that dependency triggers this deep evolutionary dynamic caretaking instinct. We see them as kind of vulnerable dependents. And many pet owners will sacrifice their own comfort in order to take care of their pets and their own, whether it's their health, their finances, they will put their pets first. But just like humans, pets can suffer from chronic stress, which we just talked about. And this can weaken their immune system and lead to various health problems. And in the scientific community, this isn't viewed as mysticism. This is a highly active area of study. So you're probably wondering where this is going. And I assure you it's going somewhere, maybe not where you expect. But given how we feel about our pets, we care about them deeply, yet we are stressing them out with our stress. How do we know that? Well, our pets are masters at reading our signs and signals, right? For example, many mammals, especially dogs in particular, pick up chemical signals that are discharged through our body. So when we're under stress and our body releases cortisol or adrenaline, they can actually tell. They can actually that they have incredible senses compared to ours, and smell is one of them. They can actually smell it, these chemicals on us. Okay. They also hear tone and pitch, right? They're finely tuned to the frequency of our voices. When we're stressed, our vocal cords tighten, the pitch of our voice, maybe the clip, how fast they pick on the underlying tension in our vocal cadence. And we also know that there are dogs who can detect when their owner is going to have a seizure or their blood sugar is dropping. And these are trained support dogs. And they're also known, just for many of us, that when you're not feeling well, your dog or your cat will come and curl up next to you. And we also know that cat purring is helpful to humans, as Kate pointed out to me earlier. And I think that's very true. It is very soothing. So as far as horses, cats, they read micro body language, prey animals, especially horses, cats, rabbits, but also, other predators like dogs are hypervigilant. And when you're anxious or overly overwhelmed, your physical structure changes. Maybe your shoulders tense up, or your breathing becomes shallow, or your movements become sharper and faster. But anyway, these changes signal that something in the environment is not safe. So it causes them stress. Okay. And as far as others, um, like lizards and other type of things, yes. Well, they pick it up, not as directly as the way maybe that the mammals do. However, when the environment changes, that registers to them. If you're change their eating habit or um, how that you care for them, that is going to stress them out. Okay. So they sense how we feel long before we even say a word, and look at how it impacts them. Okay. really can be devastating impact on their health. And those of us that love our pets like children, we want them to be with us as long as they can be. So but that kind of raises another question if you think about if stress changes us enough that our pets can detect it, especially when they're picking up chemical signals, what is changing inside us? Now we're going to move to chapter 2, an ancient survival mechanism. And to answer that, we have to go back like a long time ago and look at how our central nervous system is designed. So if you've been to some of the other webinars, you know I've talked about this before. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time of it. But however, our central nervous system is made up of 2 separate systems that have opposite but complementary roles, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So between these two, they maintain the balance in your body. So the parasympathetic nervous system, this is the seat of the rest and digest response. And its purpose is to conserve energy. And it does that by slowing our heart rate, stimulating digestion, just like it says, rest and digest. And it helps us recover from stress. So you can see how important that is. If we're under chronic stress, we need this rest and digest session so that our body can repair. Okay. And then the other side of it is the sympathetic nervous system. This is the other part of the central nervous system. And this is where the fight or flight response, and there used to be fight or flight. I'm sure that's how we still think about it. But now they've expanded it to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And the whole point of this fight or flight F4 system is to keep us alive. And it does that by basically taking over. So when your F4 response is triggered, your body, everything changes because you don't need to think because now your body's thinking for you. Because if you're dead, it doesn't matter if your brain's thinking. So basically, it just takes over. And if you've ever, stepped on something in the bushes, like your body might have reacted to it like it was a snake, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a garden hose. Okay, so here are these 4 different responses to stress. All right, so fight, and these are kind of built in. It's kind of our go-to, our system's go-to. That when we're stressed and we think we're threatened, this is where we go. So fight is face the battle head on. Okay, face the threat head on. And there's like a puffed up cat. Cats will fight. Even little kittens, as tiny as they are, they'll just like, how'd you like my cat? They'll puff up and they're going to take it on no matter how big it is. Flight, some animals just run, and especially if they're fast, that's a great solution. Squirrels, oh my gosh, I don't know how anybody catches a squirrel. Freeze, a lot of times it's bunnies will freeze, and possums are great mascots for the freeze response. They just actually go play dead. So they really take it to the expert level. And then the last one is fawn. And they added these freeze and fawn as they've done more research. And so, people who fawn kind of, go to people pleasing to secure their own safety. And so again, there's no judgment in these. This is just how our system reacts. So here's the problem, okay? The glitch is that this guard, this F4 system, it lives in our brain, modern brain, but relies on this ancient playbook, okay? So when your mind registers even a modern worry, the sympathetic nervous system fires up the exact same F4 response as if you were facing a saber-toothed tiger, floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol. It doesn't know the difference between a physical threat to your life and a psychological threat, perhaps. Maybe a threat to your ego, your social standing, or whatever. So these real or imaginary threats are still reacted to the same. Okay, so let's go through some of these, and you're going to find they're very similar to what you've mentioned. So here are some of the most common everyday mental worries that our nervous system treats like an incoming predator. The unread notification or email, okay? Do you have a few minutes to chat? Oh my gosh, depending on who that comes from. And what happens is basically um, through our primitive brain, this ambiguous communication from basically what is a tribal leader, right? If it's your boss or somewhere in your command chain, uh, it, it's uh, it spikes your central nerve or sympathetic nervous system because we survived based on hyper cooperation. And so if we think there's a conflict or an unresolved uh, problem, it threatens this vital relationship. And that fractures our safety net, triggering that same biological pain and stress pathway as if it were a physical injury, because expulsion from the tribe meant death. Okay. So we have these responses that are coming from what were very real at one point situations, but we're being triggered by them, even though it's a mental worry. So running late in traffic, being struck like in a gridlock, maybe you have a deadline or a meeting. Okay, so your body is trapped. Okay. Um, Basically, you're in a metal box and you can't move, right? And this really triggers this you're unable to flee response. And that's because it perceives as you're being cornered or trapped by a predator. And this triggers a confinement response. I don't know about you, but boy, some of those movies where they bury people alive, I mean, I can't even watch them. Talk about a confinement response. All right. So then here's another one, public speaking. I know you've probably seen the Seinfeld joke about number one among the top five fears, that death is number five, but public speaking is number one, right? So this is one of the most severe triggers for our sympathetic nervous system. Anyone want to guess why? So this is why predators stare at you before they strike. So this is ingrained in our survival mechanism. So when we're being stared at and we're the center of attention, and it's not like being in a meeting where people are looking around and chatting. When you're in front, they're looking at you. And so to your survival mechanism, you're being hunted. You're being hunted. Okay. How many of you worry about finances? Okay. So money is our passport to resources, if you think about it. It's central to how we survive and manage our lives. Okay. And so resources equal life for us. And when we worry about resources, our sympathetic nervous system triggers this deep-seated panic related to depredation and starvation. So here's the biology of the glitch. When these mental loops start running continuously, which for most people in the modern world, I would think that our stress levels are pretty through the roof, you know. We're not dealing with an occasional saber-toothed tiger or a bear. We're dealing with constant stress, especially at work, about deadlines, priorities, meetings, reports, caseload, those type of things. So our body stays in this low-grade chronic state. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to one of my prior webinars on stepping into health. And we're going to share a link later on where you can go back and see that. It goes in depth as far as what the stress does to us, as far as creating free radicals and chronic inflammation that's linked to every single major disease there is. Okay, so because you can't physically run away from an email or you can't run away from a traffic jam, then you get triggered. And when stress becomes chronic, these responses lead to negative health effects. So moving along, chapter 3, an invisible world. Okay, so our pets notice. They notice changes because they're picking up on it. Okay, and we know that can affect them, and it can make them sad and stressed. All right, but there's another audience that doesn't need to see you, it doesn't need to hear you, it doesn't need to pick up on any other experience or physical signal because it's inside you. The plot thickens. Okay. All right. The answer is 28 to 36. Okay. Basically, the differences between the size of the frame. Traditionally, females have less cells because they have smaller stature. Generally, I can't always generalize, but if you think of it, usually men have larger frames, more muscle. But every one of these cells, this is the point, is constantly listening. Okay. The bridge between your thoughts and your cellular biology is biochemical. So when I say listening, not me listening to your thoughts, but your thoughts are generating reaction in your brain, chemical messages that are being sent to them. So here's the pathway, the bridge between your stress response and what happens in your body to your cells, to your trillions of cells. Okay. So you have a perception, a troublesome thought. Oh no, another meeting is scheduled, and what's this about? And am I prepared? Okay. So, or maybe it's that email. So here comes that email that you haven't read, and it's from your boss, and it just says something obscure like discussion. Okay. So your brain triggers this, it translates this into a real threat. Okay. Here we are back to the real threat, the physical threat, because it doesn't know the difference. Okay. So when it translates it, then what happens is that stress hormones are released, and then they are transmitted to your cells, and your cells react. So stress has an incredible effect on our health. And as we've seen, it doesn't have to be an actual threat. Well, it could be, but I mean, it doesn't have to be a physical threat. It could be a work worry threat or some other mental threat. Okay, so here we go. So what happens is when these biological chemicals are released, of course, this is your F4 response, it stops your rest and repair. It stops it. If you're sleeping in rest and repair and you wake up in the middle of the night and the phone rings, you're done. Your rest and repair is over. You are now in the F4 crisis mode, right? Your cells enter crisis mode. I know we're all terrified of the call in the middle of the night because it's generally not good news. Okay. So if you think about it, though, we take care of our pets and we worry about them, right? We don't want them suffering. But what about ourselves? What about ourselves? We know that we're damaging them. So let's talk about a new way of seeing. Tons of cells, the trillions of cells in our body are all specialized. There's not just one kind of cell, right? You know that. There's kidney cells, there's liver cells, there's brain cells, there's red blood cells, white blood cells, skin cells, motor protein cells, which we're going to talk about in just a second. And they all live, they reproduce, they die, they have different functions, they have a job to do, and they take care of it tirelessly without any effort on our part. And we tend to think that our cells maybe look like these blobs of unknown composition, right? That's how we used to kind of picture cells. But in fact, they are very complex living creatures. And this is a depiction of a scientific examination of a particular type of cell. So I want to show you a video now of what's happening inside of you. And I find this to be really amazing. And you can Google this. There's other videos. This is actually a representation of what a motor protein does. It's called a kinesin. And I mean, look at it. It has two little feet, and it can go. You can look it up on YouTube and go into excruciating but interesting depth about how this actually happens and what it's doing. But this kinesin is taking carrying a load of cargo across this little highway, which is actually built just in front of it as it travels. That's shown in a different video. So this is just an example of one of these workers keeping everything running behind the scenes. So we're not just a block of whatever our go-to food is, like cheese or ice cream or potato chips. Although my cholesterol is so high, my doctor says I'm practically a solid. Sorry, I stole that from someone. But these little workers are keeping everything going, and they are living and dying and reproducing, and they are live entities. So why do we ignore ourselves? Why do we ignore their needs? Okay. if we're supported by this incredible community of living cells, why have most of us not really thought about them this way? I don't think it's because we don't care. I think it's because our brains are wired in a certain way. For one thing, our brains rely on a feedback loop, and with stress, it's delayed. It's a slow, silent burn. There's no immediate ouch. Okay, there's no immediate ouch to a stressful day. If you touch a hot stove, that feedback loops pretty quick, and that's where your F4 steps in. You don't have to think; your body takes over and takes your hand away from the stove. We don't have that with stress. There's no immediate, unless you have, of course, a heart attack or a stroke. But ordinarily, it's just a slow burn. There's also this cultural conditioning that says basically we're praised. It's the grind culture. We're praised for pushing back past our limits. The I'll sleep when I'm dead, or no pain, no gain. Okay. So we're taught by society to override our internal biological signals like fatigue, headaches, anxiety in pursuit of covering these external goals, completely forgetting that our internal workers are paying the price. And basically, this is what we've got is our body, and when it doesn't work anymore, the ride's over. Okay, over for here. All right. So if you haven't been caring for your cellular health, don't beat yourself up. Now, our brains are hardwired in this way, and one of them is that they're out of sight and out of mind. So it's not like the dog can let you know that it wants to go out, or the cat is rubbing against your legs because you haven't fed it. We are visual creatures, and we're hardwired to respond to things that we can see, hear, or touch. We can't see their struggle, they're invisible. And so our brains simply don't register them as these dependents that need our protection. Okay, but what if, for a moment, that you imagine that instead of these being cells, what if you start to think of them as our internal pets who have no one to care for them but us? And now we're going to talk about becoming better caretakers. If we can change the way of seeing these amazing biological machines that are keeping us alive, maybe we can learn to become better caretakers. So, yeah, we have been taught to care for the life around us. We feed our children, our families, our pets, ourselves. We provide protection, we comfort them, we give them medical care. But maybe now it's time to learn to care for the life within us, the life that's keeping us here. So we got to step back real quick to the vagus nerve. Okay, remember it? It plays the huge role in countering the fight, flight, the F4 response. It starts in the brainstem and it travels down to our entire body, and it's designed to counteract the F4. That's what's going to get us out of chronic stress. So let's learn how to calm our inner pets by engaging the vagus nerve, take us out of the fight or flight, fawn, or freeze stress response. Okay. So I got 3 exercises. We're going to do these together. The first one is called the psychological sigh. And this is what we're going to do. I'm going to explain it to you. We're going to take a deep breath in through our nose. And then right before our lungs are full, we're going to take another quick sip to fully expand our lungs. And then we're going to let a long, slow sigh through our mouth. Okay. Are you ready? Here we go. Okay. Inhale for 6 seconds. Now take a quick sip. Fully inflate your lungs. Reach to your capacity and let out a long sigh through your mouth. And your exhale should be longer, actually, than your 2 inhales. Okay, we're going to do it again. Here we go. Inhale for 6 seconds. Focus on slow, deep nasal intake. Take a quick sip. Fully expand your lungs. And now let out that long sigh through your mouth. So what you're doing, and while you're doing this, in addition to stimulating your vagus nerve and triggering rest and digest responses, that you are um, releasing the carbon dioxide and giving your lungs time to really absorb the oxygen. But the key part of this is the double inhale, the to uh, to maximize that. And so there's a little handout coming here that you can download. Okay, so now we're going to do exercise 2. This is called the calming ear rub. Okay, and we're going to do this. We're going to do this together. What we're going to do is we're going to take our index finger and place it inside the bowl of your ear. Okay, um, and you know, if you don't know what that is, here. Okay, okay, let me show you. Okay, so there's the bowl of your ear. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to gently massage that area as we take a slow breath in and out. Okay, all right, you ready? Here we go. Ready, set, go. Inhale for 6 seconds. Now you got to be rubbing your little bowl of your ear. Okay, exhale for 6 seconds. Inhale for 6 seconds. I'm rubbing my earbud. Not quite the same. Exhale for 6 seconds. You're literally giving your nervous system a treat. Okay. You're telling your inner pets that it's safe. So here's a little handout for that. Okay, we're coming down to the end. But I don't know, maybe you didn't notice it. Did your shoulders drop a little bit? Was your breathing kind of stay slowed down? So basically what we're doing with these exercises is we're kind of like scratching behind the ears of our nervous system. Because you got to remember this guy, our F4 system is working overtime. He thinks every email, every deadline, every difficult conversation could be life or death. But by activating our vagus nerve, we've changed our physiology. We didn't change our environment, okay? But now we are no longer in F4, flight, fight, freeze, or fawn response. Okay, one last exercise. So we've established that our body reacts to a thought actually before our conscious mind registers it. And there's a lot of things running in the background that we're not conscious of. It's there. It's like background worries. We all have them. We don't really maybe even register that they're going on, but they're stressors that we carry. Okay. And so these physical symptoms, the tension that we carry, are really signals for us to tell us that we are stressed and we need to address it. But we can use that signal then to identify that mental source. Okay, remember we talked about the mental stressors that are bothering us? This is part of making the invisible visible. We're going to bring that unconscious stress signals into our awareness. Okay, and that's going to help us through this exercise shift our system from F4 to rest and digest. But first, before we start this, I need you to find a piece of paper and something to write on if you would. Okay, so here we go. This is the 3-step stress interruption framework. Ah, Lisa, look at that. Where'd you find that? Oh, that's so clever. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is turn our awareness to our body. We're going to do this together. So you can go, just close your eyes if you want and just listen to my voice. Okay, just close your eyes for a minute. So I want you to turn your awareness to your body. I want you to bring your attention top of your head and just move it down through the rest of your body. Okay, so just think about your forehead, your face, think about your jaw, down through your shoulders. Just bring awareness to what's going on in your body. Okay, your arms, your hands. Are you holding your tongue? I'm sorry, holding your tongue. Are you holding your breath? Um, okay. So what we're looking for are those type of things like I just mentioned. Okay, you can open your eyes. And just I want you to write those down. Was your jaw or teeth clenched? Or you're grasping something? Or you're holding your breath? So just take a moment and jot those down on your piece of paper. Now, once you've identified that physical sign of stress, I want you to think about what is that imaginary saber-toothed tiger that you're reacting to. Write down the imaginary threat, upcoming meeting, car troubles, report that's due, maybe something you turned in late. Now I want you to give it a silly name, okay? I want you to give it a silly name. And here's some ideas, okay? Um, Patty Panic, Panic Patty. This maybe your email is unread and you're worrying about what it is, okay? Sir frets a lot. This is worries that are constantly in your head, waiting for the sky to fall. They're pacing back and forth. Perfectionist Pete, nagging Nelly, never satisfied. This is a party that's never satisfied, no matter how well you did. This might come through in the voice of your mom or your dad, okay? The worry wart, nagging fear that's always there, that you're worrying about something isn't covered, something is undone, maybe you've forgotten it, maybe you should have run that report a second time. And then there's the last one as an example is the drama llama, and this is where we're creating a huge scene over minor inconveniences. The restroom is closed for cleaning and you have to go to another floor, okay? That is not well, it could be, but usually that's not a huge catastrophe. Okay, so a point about that, what we've done so far is writing that stressor down. Stressor down externalizes the thought. Okay, it separates you from it. It separates you from your thought. Now, if you ever listen to Eckhart Tolle, you understand what I'm talking about. If not, you might want to look him up. He wrote an incredible book called The Power of Now. Okay, and so taking that further, besides writing it down, giving it funny or absurd or overly dramatic names is one of the best ways to disarm it. So when you make an internal threat sound silly, your brain stops treating it like a real predator. Okay. Now we're going to talk about how we create this chemical reset. And what we're going to do is we're going to counteract this mental paper tiger with positive self-talk. Now, there's a difference between positive self-talk, which is what we're going to try to do to relax our inner pets, and toxic positivity. We're not looking for toxic positivity. Oh, everything's fine. Oh, everything's great. It'll be okay. We're not looking for that. We're talking about grounded reality statements because that's what your body is going to react to, not cheerleading. It needs anchors, not cheerleading. Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you some examples maybe that you could use for this step. Let's talk about what we might say back to Panic Patty. Okay. Oh, Panic Patty. An unread message is just information waiting. It's not an emergency. Oh, Panic Patty, there you are again. But you know what? I respond thoughtfully, not frantically. I'm going to give myself time to create a professional, structured response instead of an emotional tirade. Pacing is in my control. I don't have to answer this right this second. Okay. Sir frets a lot, right? Waiting for the sky to fall. Oh, Sir frets a lot. I am responding to what is happening right now, not what might happen later. And I've handled unexpected problems before, and I can handle them again if they arise. And then perfectionist Pete, doesn't matter what you do, it's never good enough. Well, you know what? Done and solved is better than perfect and exhausted. And what am I saying? It is continuous improvement is better than deferred perfection. Okay. My effort was complete. My worth isn't tied to flawless output. And then here's some for the worry word. Thank you for trying to protect me, but I am safe in this moment. Because remember, that's what our system is looking for. It's looking for safety. Okay. A worry is just a passing thought, not a proven fact. And then the last one for the drama llama, this is an inconvenience, not a catastrophe. I can take a deep breath and break this down into one small, simple step. So, one of the things that you can do to make this even more powerful is to combine this positive self talk, grounding self talk, with a physical reaction. Um, yeah, I've got to go back and read some of these. Done and solid is now going to be my go to. Yes, thank you. Um, Thank you, Heather. I really appreciate it. The recording will be posted later on our professional development Google page. You can watch it again. And as I think some of you mentioned earlier, Julie mentioned humming, and let's see, no, remember. But anyway, there's other somatic exercises you can do, such as emotional freedom tapping. If you don't know what that is, you might want to watch my webinar on um, tapping into health. I talk about emotional freedom tapping. If you're not familiar with it, it involves stimulating certain acupressure points which are tied to the vagus nerve. And as you're doing that, you are saying these positive statements. Okay, so that's emotional freedom tapping. Happening, which is comforting motions that you can combine with these statements, or self-hugging. I think Kate's talked about that. And I've talked about having also at EFT. And then, of course, like what we just did, the calming ear exercise, right? So when you pair this positive self-talk, grounded self-talk with these somatic exercises, and that's where real magic happens, okay? Because you're combining the top-down processing, from here to physical touch or sensory input, which is bottom down. And that doubles that signal to the brain that it's safe. And remember, that's what we're looking for. Are we looking to feel safe? Our pets want to feel safe. Our internal pets want to feel safe too. Okay, so listen. Today we talked about stress, our pets, hormones, and ourselves, right? Okay. But actually, underneath all of this was really about caregiving, right? Because our cells are alive, they're remarkably loyal. They've been working for us every second of every day since we were born and before. They don't ask for a lot. They just want the safe environment we can give them. So every time we pause, every time we breathe, every time we choose self-compassion instead of panic, we make their home just a little bit healthier, okay? Because our cells are alive, we are their caretakers, and they have no one else to look for safety but you.